Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the energy in your own home was just heavy? That's exactly what I was dealing with. It was this thick, stagnant cloud I just couldn't shake. I felt drained, unmotivated, and my own space, which was supposed to be my sanctuary, felt like it was working against me. I stumbled upon this viral spiritual hack that I'm sure you've seen by now, the one that claims you can fix it all with just a glass of salt in your freezer. Honestly, it sounds a little out there, but I was at a point where I was willing to try anything. So I decided to document the entire process. I put salt in my freezer for 7 days to see if this ancient idea holds any real power, or if it's just a myth. And what I discovered over the next week was definitely not what I was expecting. The concept itself is fascinating, isn't it? It's a mix of old world folklore and modern spirituality that has thousands of people curious. The core idea is that salt, a substance that has been seen as sacred for thousands of years, can act like a kind of spiritual sponge. This isn't a new idea. Salt has been used in purification rituals in cultures from ancient Egypt and Rome to Japanese Shinto ceremonies. In many traditions, it's seen as a powerful tool to cleanse spaces and people of negative energies. You've probably heard of sprinkling salt across a doorway that comes from old European folklore, meant to keep unwelcome energy from crossing the threshold. So where does the freezer come in? That's the modern, symbolic twist. The ritual suggests that by placing the salt, which has supposedly absorbed all that negative energy, into the freezer, you are freezing the negativity in its tracks. It's a symbolic act of stopping harmful influences from affecting your life. The cold is believed to lock in and neutralize the unwanted energy that the salt has drawn from your environment. It's a way of taking back control, of building a little vault where negativity is rendered powerless. Before I started, I really wanted to understand the thinking behind this. It isn't just about tossing table salt in a cup. The whole practice is built on the spiritual idea that salt crystals can absorb and neutralize negative energy. Spiritual traditions like feng shui, for instance, sometimes use bowls of salt to cleanse the aura of a room. The type of salt is also said to be important. While any salt could work in theory, unrefined salts like sea salt or rock salt are usually recommended. Sea salt is thought to bring the cleansing energy of water, while rock salt is tied to the grounding energy of the earth. For my experiment, I went with coarse sea salt. It just felt more elemental and pure. The ritual itself is incredibly simple, but the most important part, according to every source I could find, is your intention. The idea is that the power doesn't just come from the salt, but from the focused energy you bring to it. So, here's what I did. I picked a simple clear glass, as it's often recommended to use glass or ceramic to avoid any interference. I rinsed the glass with water first, just to start with a clean slate. Then, I filled it about 3/4 full with the coarse sea salt. Holding the glass in both hands, I closed my eyes and took a few deep breaths, really trying to center myself. I focused on my intention and spoke it out loud, quietly but clearly. May the salt absorb all the heavy, stagnant, and negative energy from my home and my life. May it cleanse this space and bring back peace, clarity, and lightness. I tried to visualize the salt acting like a magnet, pulling all that unseen weight from the corners of my rooms and into the glass. Then, with that intention set, I walked to my freezer. As I placed the glass inside, in a corner where it wouldn't be disturbed, I pictured the door closing as a final act of locking away all the negativity the salt had collected. It was frozen, contained, and powerless. The setup was done. Now all I had to do was wait and see what happened over the next 7 days. I woke up on day 1 feeling a mix of curiosity and serious skepticism. Did I really just perform a magic spell with kitchen seasoning? It felt a little silly. I went about my day, and to be honest, nothing felt different. The air in my apartment still had that same low vibration hum. I kept catching myself looking for signs, which I'm sure defeated the purpose. I'd pause and think, does it feel lighter in here? And the answer was always, no, not really. If anything, focusing on the heavy energy just made me notice it more. By the end of the day, I was tired, a little disappointed, and wondering what I was even expecting. A miracle overnight? I had to remind myself this was a week-long experiment and to just let it be. On the second day, I made a conscious effort to stop looking for changes and just live my life. I put on some music, opened the windows, and got to work. It was around midday when I noticed the first tiny shift. It wasn't in the room, but in me. I was working on a project that had been stressing me out for weeks, and for the first time, I felt a sense of calm focus. That usual wave of anxiety just wasn't there. Was it the salt? Or just a good day? It was impossible to tell. Later, a friend I hadn't heard from in months called me out of the blue just to say hi. It was a lovely, uplifting chat that left me smiling. A coincidence, almost certainly. But it was a positive one. The house didn't feel magically cleansed, but I felt a little brighter. Day 3 was intense. I woke up with a sudden, overwhelming urge to clean and declutter. This wasn't a normal, I should tidy up feeling. It was a deep, driving need to get rid of old things. I spent hours tearing through closets and drawers, creating bags for donations and trash. With every old shirt and forgotten piece of paper I threw out, I felt a sense of release. It was as if I wasn't just clearing physical junk, but emotional and energetic junk too. The air in my apartment, which had felt so still, finally felt like it was moving. Now, obviously, the physical act of cleaning was the main reason for this, but the timing felt significant. It was as if the ritual had kicked off a purge cycle. That evening, sitting in my newly organized space, I felt a real sense of peace. For the first time, I genuinely felt the heaviness begin to lift. I woke up on day 4 feeling incredibly clear-headed. The mental fog I'd been living in seemed to have vanished. I sat down with my journal and found myself mapping out solutions to problems that had felt impossible just a week ago. The feeling of being stuck was just gone. Then, another strange thing happened. I got an email about an opportunity I had applied for weeks ago and had totally written off. They wanted to schedule an interview. It was startling. Of course, this could absolutely be chalked up to random chance, but in the context of this experiment, it felt like a sign that blockages were clearing. Many people believe these rituals can also clear your personal energy, allowing good things to flow to you. Today, it really felt like that might be happening. Day 5 brought a test. I got some stressful news from work, a sudden deadline change that messed up all my plans. Normally, this would send me into a panic. I braced myself for that familiar dread to wash over me, but it didn't come. Instead, I felt this strange sense of calm detachment. I could see the problem. I understood the stress. but it felt separate from me. It was like I was standing in the quiet eye of a storm. I handled it logically, without the emotional chaos that usually takes over. This felt like the protection part of the ritual in action. It wasn't that the bad thing didn't happen, but my ability to cope with it was completely different. It was a powerful feeling, a reminder that the goal isn't to avoid challenges, but to have the strength to face them without letting them consume you. By day 6, the shift was undeniable. It wasn't some huge, dramatic lightning strike, but a quiet, deep change in the atmosphere of my home and within myself. Everything just felt more harmonious. My conversations with people were smoother. My work flowed. My sleep was deeper and more restful than it had been in months. The house finally felt like a sanctuary again. It felt light, supportive, and welcoming. It felt like mine. That constant low-grade anxiety I had been living with was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. It was as if a dissonant sound had been playing in the background of my life for years, and someone had finally turned it off. The silence was beautiful. On the last day, I just took some time to reflect. I thought about the person who started this experiment a week ago, drained, frustrated, and stuck under that heavy cloud. The person I was now felt so different. I felt lighter, clearer, and more in control. The world outside hadn't changed, but my inner world and my home had. The oppressive feeling was completely gone. Whether it was the salt, the power of my own intention, a placebo effect, or some combination of all three, something had clearly worked. The simple act of focusing on clearing negativity for a whole week had been incredibly powerful. As the day ended, I felt a little nervous about the final step, getting rid of the salt. The experiment was over, but I had a feeling the effects would stick around. The morning after the 7th day, it was time. I opened the freezer and there it sat. I took out the small glass and it was ice cold, of course, but looking closely at the salt, I was surprised. It looked different. It seemed denser, heavier, and had taken on a slightly grayish, clumpy look. It was no longer the bright, separate crystals I had put in. Now, the logical scientific explanation for this is almost certainly that it just absorbed some moisture, which can happen even in a freezer. But symbolically, it looked saturated. It looked like it had done its job. According to tradition, getting rid of the salt properly is a critical step. You don't want to keep that absorbed negativity in your home. The recommendation is to either throw it in an outside trash can, bury it in the earth, or flush it away with running water. The idea is to return that energy to the earth or wash it away for good. I chose to flush it. As I poured the salt into the toilet, I said a quiet, "Thank you." And as I watched it swirl away, it felt like the final satisfying act of release. So what's my verdict? I started this as a skeptic, fully prepared to report that nothing changed. But I can't do that. The shift I experienced was real. Was it because the salt was literally absorbing bad vibes from my apartment? Or was it the powerful psychological effect of a focused ritual? Honestly, I think the real magic is in the mystery. The ritual became a powerful prompt for change. Focusing on it every day made me more mindful of the energy around me and inside me. Setting that strong intention to clear out negativity likely pushed my subconscious to take action, like that massive decluttering spree on day 3. It created a space for me to believe change was possible, and so change happened. But I can't completely write off the spiritual side of it. The timing of that phone call and the job interview, that bizarre sense of calm during a crisis. It all felt like more than just a placebo effect. Cultures all over the world have believed in the purifying power of salt for a reason. They may have been tuned into something our modern world doesn't always acknowledge. Ultimately, putting salt in my freezer for 7 days was a genuinely transformative experience. It was a powerful reminder that we can have a hand in shifting the energy in our lives. The ritual is a tool. It's a physical act that backs up a spiritual and psychological goal: to let go of what's holding you back and make room for peace. My home no longer feels heavy. It feels clear, calm, and truly like my sanctuary. And I feel lighter, more focused, and more resilient. Whether you call it magic, psychology, or mindful intention, the result was the same. It worked. It's a simple, accessible thing to try if you're ever feeling stuck or overwhelmed by the vibe in your own space. And now I am so curious to hear from you. Have you ever tried this or any other kind of salt cleansing? What was your experience like? Did you notice anything shift? Please share your stories in the comments below. I would genuinely love to read them. And if you enjoyed this little exploration and want to see more, maybe stick around to see what we get into next. Thank you for joining me on this journey.